The really cool part about this setup is that it'll work with both gaming PCs and consoles, and this entire gaming setup, which includes the gaming PC, the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse, and even the mouse pad, only costs $500 total. That's really cheap for getting literally everything that you need. The $272 ITX Gaming PC here can play games like GTA 5 at 79 FPS, Apex Legends at 90 FPS, and of course Fortnite at 156 FPS. So although this is a very low budget gaming setup, this is still very capable in 2023. I'm also going to show you how you can upgrade this setup if you have some extra money to spend or if you just want to grow into this setup over time. And I'm also going to show you how this will work perfectly fine with a console as well. But first,
I've promoted a ton of third-party key reseller websites in the past, but Digital Chillmart continues to be my all-time personal favorite site to use, and I've bought at least 30 keys from them so far for my own business. Digital Chillmart not only has all the keys you need such as Windows 10 and Windows 11 for your PC flipping business, but unlike everyone else, they also provide literally instant key delivery as soon as you purchase it, which is why it's my favorite website to use. Someone feel free to snag up that code on the screen, by the way, you're welcome. With the coupon code ZTT, they're actually giving you 50% off, and that drops the price of Windows 10 Home down to just 10 bucks. I don't see a single other website beating that price right now. Head on down to the link in the description to remove that nasty unactivated Windows 10 watermark. Show your customers that buy your builds that you're legit so you get more business in the future, and don't forget to use discount code ZTT to get 50% off.
So starting with the mouse, I'm actually spending the biggest chunk of my remaining peripheral money on here, as this costs $40, which is kind of expensive for a $500 total setup. I think this is important because honestly, the mouse is the most crucial tool you have when gaming, especially if you're a competitive player. Using a super budget mouse often results in a laggy and inaccurate gameplay experience, and if you're just jumping into PC gaming, you're gonna end up thinking that a mouse is stupid, just jump right back to your controller and console. Instead, I would recommend you spend the money now on your mouse because trust me, there's a huge difference between a really cheap $20 mouse and even just a slightly more expensive $40 mouse like this one. Now, the reason why this one is so good for the price is because of the sensor, and this is Logitech's Hero sensor, which not only feels super accurate when whipping it around the mouse pad, but it also has an up to 12,000 DPI setting and a 400 IPS precision rating. I honestly have zero clue what that second one means, but just trust me, this is accurate. Like, my 31-year-old boomer self can actually land headshots with it in multiplayer. Unranked. The other great feature about this one is that it has a 250-hour battery life, which I obviously can't test and verify myself, but instead of having to charge it every 2 weeks or however long it takes your degenerate self to reach 250 gaming hours, it actually just has a single AA battery, which I think is super neat. Now, some people obviously might not like that, but I personally prefer being able to just change out the battery instead of finding the charging cable, plugging it in, leaving it plugged in, and using it as a wired mouse for like a day or two until you remember to unplug it. I'd rather just change it out and get right back to gaming. For the total weight, this one's at 99 grams, which is about a medium-ish weight, and for reference, the super lightweight and competitive Model O weighs 67 grams, and then my personal daily driver, which is the Razer Naga V2 Pro, weighs 134 grams. I gotta have all my buttons for both WoW and editing videos. I should also probably mention what this is called, by the way, and this is the Logitech G305 Lightspeed Wireless, and it actually comes in several different color options, which all cost less than $40, which is pretty sick. It's currently rocking a 4.7 out of 5-star Amazon rating, which is the highest on our list today. Again, I like to spend the extra money here on the mouse versus anything else. And also, shout out to this Amazon reviewer who actually had a genius idea where apparently you can take a AAA battery to AA battery converter, so you can use the smaller and lightweight AAA battery to decrease the total weight of the mouse. I mean, how smart is that? And finally, if you are looking to upgrade this over time, or if you just have a bit more of a flexible budget to spend, I personally recommend something like the glorious Model O Wireless, which costs around $68. This is a pretty popular and sought after option for competitive gamers, and literally everything we're talking about is down in the description, by the way. And real quickly before moving on to the rest of this peripheral list, I do want to talk about the budget allocation ratio that I went with, because you do have several options. For this setup here, I spent around 50% on the PC and 50% for everything else. For a more expensive setup, it's probably a good idea to allocate more like 70% to the PC. That way you're actually getting higher FPS and better visuals versus using all high-end peripherals on a potato PC. That's what we would call a ricer in the car world. I'm still in my Fast and Furious obsession, by the way. Family. And just remember that this is all still very relevant to consoles, as you can easily swap out this gaming PC for something like an Xbox Series S for just a few bucks more.
Not today. Not tomorrow.
You can either use the keyboard and mouse with the Xbox now, or obviously just use a controller, but everything else like the monitor and headset will be perfectly fine. There's a lot of options with a $500 setup. Moving on here though, let's hop onto this keyboard, and here's where we're saving some money a bit as I only paid $23. I'm continuing our wireless theme though, just because I wanted the setup to look clean, and in 2023, I honestly just think that's the way to go. This model does have a wired option though with a USB-C cable if you wanted to continue living like in the caveman days. More importantly, these are actually legit mechanical switches, which is pretty good for this ultra low price point. They're obviously just a knockoff cheap brand, but they're still actually blue switches, which gives that loud and tactile feedback that you would expect if that's what you're looking for. Here's what they sound like. The keyboard also has RGB control using keyboard shortcuts, so you don't need any annoying software, and this is still a pretty solid but plastic frame actually, and it really doesn't feel like it only costs $23. The model name is called the DGG YK600 White 60%, and this one's rocking a pretty impressive 4.3 out of 5-star Amazon rating, which is pretty high for such a budget product. Usually products like this, even if they're highly rated, still have a ton of low reviews, but this one seems pretty consistent. And if you're looking for a super in-depth review on obviously a professional Amazon reviewer, then Mariano actually summed it up perfectly. He says, "It works, thanks." That's all you need to know. And if you are interested in skipping the budget option but want to maintain that white 60% aesthetic look, then the Razer Huntsman Mini would be a pretty good bet, but that costs $90, which is obviously a good bit more. Next up, we have the headset, and this is by far the cheapest product that we have on the list today because this only cost me $13. And honestly, what expectations could you possibly have for something that costs $13? Don't get me wrong though, these are actually pretty solid for the price, and they're really lightweight. Not sure if that's an actual feature or if it's just because they're made with super cheap material though. They do have some RGB lighting on the side here, and since it uses both a 3.5mm and USB connector, it'll work with pretty much any device that has the ports for it. And as far as audio quality, it sounds decent enough with the 40mm drivers. It's not gonna blow you away or anything, but for 13 bucks, they definitely get the job done so you don't have to rely on monitor speakers. And here's what the microphone quality is sounding like. And real quickly, if you do have some extra money to spend, then our Frost Nova gaming PC, which we sell on zackstechdrive.com, would go perfectly fine in a white setup like this. We keep that build restocked and we build it on demand, and the link for that is down in the description. But yes, the model name for this is the Elec Thunder White Gaming Headset, and it's worth noting that apparently it's not just a headset that's great for gaming, but it's also good for sleeping. What? I don't think anyone on the entire planet is going to be sleeping with these, but I could be wrong. And if you just want someone else's opinion on the headset, then I found another super in-depth review. This time it's from Jamel on Amazon, and he says, "Good." If you are looking for an upgrade path or just want to spend a bit more money now, which is honestly a pretty good idea, I recommend the SteelSeries Arctics 3 for around 50 bucks. Bonus points because I've heard from multiple people, including my wife, that these are great for gamers with glasses. Nerds, by the way. So next up we have the monitor, and here we got to spend some money as this is anywhere from $140 to $160, but this is a 24-inch 1080p 144Hz IPS panel with a 1 millisecond greater gray response time. At this low of a price point, there's not many options that you have available, but I would try to target something with similar specs. At least get a 1080p 144Hz monitor, whether you want to play on console or a gaming PC. This one also does have FreeSync support to reduce screen tearing, and there's even a VESA mount on the back if you wanted to get some more adjustment out of it than just the included stand. That'll cost some more money though. The panel also covers 118% of the sRGB scale, which wouldn't be a bad choice for content creators instead of just gamers. Usually the more budget monitors are either good for gaming or good for content creation, and this one is actually somehow good for both. This is the Pixio PX248PA or Prime Advanced, and do note that there is a slightly cheaper Prime version if you actually do have a super strict $500 total setup price. This PA version is just the one that I already had in the studio, and this one got a 4.6 out of 5-star rating. The problem though is that this accounts for reviews of several different monitor models and not just this specific one, but it's great to see that people are still liking all of these Pixio options though. I often use Pixio monitors for these budget setup guides because there's just so many different options to choose from at this low price point, and they also send them all to me. Like every single model. It's awesome. Now, I did find a better Amazon reviewer for you this time, and Catalina actually posted on my birthday last year. She says, "Muy buena, imagine el tamaño perfecto, correcto funcionamiento," which I believe means very good image, perfect size. Join the exclusives by clicking the join button down below. I think I got that right. And as far as an upgrade path goes, this one honestly doesn't really need one until you jump into 1440p in my opinion, but a slightly better 1080p option would be the AOC 24G2 SP, which usually sits for around $175 when it's in stock. Next up we have the mouse pad, and obviously you can just go with whatever you think looks cool, but I do have some recommendations on how to make the right selection. First, I would definitely go with a longer XL pad like this one. Not only are they super useful for both your wrist and for more movement area for your mouse,
I want to see some movement. I'm not seeing enough movement.
but they also actually artificially boost the aesthetics of what would otherwise be a pretty boring setup. Having the black and white contrasting with the other white peripherals in PC or even Xbox Series S really makes these somewhat boring products really stand out, and then the setup looks more expensive than what it actually is. I wouldn't recommend one of those all white mouse pads because then it would just be like an all white blah mess, and I wouldn't recommend anything too obnoxious because then it'll stick out like a sore thumb because everything else in this setup is pretty clean and minimal. It's pretty funny how I scripted this part of the video and then Amazon of course immediately showed me this frequently bought together combo including a white mouse pad, a white mouse, and a white keyboard. That just doesn't look good. You gotta be more creative than that. The one I chose is the 2 graphic contour black gaming mousepad XL, and this is a 4.5 out of 5 star rating, which is pretty solid. Most people are pretty happy with it, but Jacob over on Amazon only gave it a 2-star review because it didn't have an unboxing experience and it just came in a plastic wrap. I don't know, man. Maybe that might upset you as well. With that wrapped up though, literally in plastic. Sorry, Jacob. Here's what the full peripheral shopping list is looking like before we get to that PC. And as you can see, we did go a tad bit over budget, but there's a ton of wiggle room with these parts depending on what you go with. Once again, links to everything we're talking about today are down in the description. What's also down in the description is a link to my full video where I went super in depth about how to build this budget ITX PC, but inside it's rocking an i5 4690, 16 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, a GTX 1050 Ti, and that beautiful looking case is the Fractal Design 2 Nano White. And despite its older hardware, we got some very solid FPS numbers for 1080p gaming. If you want to see more about this gaming PC, then click the video that's on the screen now. But if you think I should have used a different peripheral or use one in an upcoming setup guide video, then let me know down in the comment section.